So I stood in my classroom on the first day back from winter break in my first year of education. After those couple of weeks off, I was trying to piece my classroom life back together, get my room organized, and get everything ready for the first day back. The teacher from one door over, who also happened to be my mentor, popped her head in. "How was your break?" she asked. I opened my mouth, fully expecting to share stories of the much-needed time I'd spent with my family and the glory of the holiday itself, all true about those couple of weeks off. But when I opened my mouth to speak, I began to sob instead. Now, to her credit, she crossed the room and she simply stood and hugged me. She didn't try to talk me out of my feelings. She didn't try to convince me that everything was going to be okay. And as the tears rolled down my face, I tried to think of some explanation, some way to string words together to appear to be a competent, functioning adult. But it didn't happen. And as I stood there, unable to speak or move, I thought to myself, what is happening here? How did I get to this place? I think this happens to many of us being teachers, but also humans. We get so busy in our daily lives that we end up in a place we no longer recognize. We aren't sure about the path that led us here, and we aren't sure how to dig ourselves out and make it back to the path that we had once visualized. At that point in my career, and for many years beyond that, I lived inside the four walls of my classroom. I thought I could do it all. Connect with every child, plan every lesson, prepare every material, laminate all the things. I thought if I could just put the right structures in place, I could automatize myself into achieving success as a teacher. Boy, was I wrong. And once I admitted that I was wrong to myself, I started to get my life back, a life I didn't even realize that I had lost. Over the years, I've learned many hard things about myself. One of these things is that working harder, working more hours, joining more committees, following all the seemingly right steps didn't lead me to a feeling of success. It led me to burnout. I was confused by this at first. I had lived a life and grown up in a system that taught me that if I worked hard, I would achieve success. If I worked more, I would achieve success. And when this seemingly simple equation, hard work plus working more, didn't equal success, I had a choice to make. Continue on this same road, or say screw it, and create a new path to follow, a new formula to try out. So now I want to ask you a question. When you think of success, how many of you think of hard work? That those who achieve success are those who simply outwork everyone else? How many of you see these two things as going hand in hand? It's okay, you can raise your hand. Look around. Yeah, this is what we've been taught, that if we work hard and we work more, it will eventually lead us to success. Now, I want you to think about this. How many of you associate success with positive well-being? That those who achieve success are those that are well in mind, body, spirit, and soul. Look around again. Not as many, maybe a little iffy. It's interesting how we define success, isn't it? What I've learned over the last couple of years is that perhaps our definition of success is at best misguided, and at worst, destructive. So who would we say are the winners in teaching? Who do we see as successful? Who often gets the awards? I believe it's those that don't say no. It's those that walk in at 6:30 a.m. and don't walk out again until 6 or 7 p.m. It's those that work all weekend long and even all summer long, reflecting and refining their lesson plans, learning and prepping for the upcoming school year. Those are the teachers we place on pedestals. We prize this fake it till you make it facade because that's what we're supposed to do, right? But I wonder, who is this serving? Is it serving those around us, our colleagues, our families, our students, our children, to give them a fake self? Is it serving us to walk around with a mask on each day? Brené Brown says that we all wear some sort of armor to protect ourselves. I couldn't agree more. Whether it's a mask or full body armor, we are all just people underneath. People with hopes and dreams and fears and doubts, and I'm not sure what armor each one of us put on this morning. But I do wonder about the why behind our insistence to walk through our days like this. What are we protecting ourselves from? So I think we're going about finding success all wrong. Our ideas about effective teachers in particular are driving them out of the classroom in astounding numbers. I know I'm one of them. Though I stuck around in the classroom longer than 40 to 50% of teachers that research tells us leave within the first 5 years, I am all too familiar with this storyline. Which brings me to my current work. I'm fascinated with teacher stories and how they got here and how they make it through each day. I went into this work focused on teacher well-being and self-care, but what I've learned so far is incredibly interesting. When I asked teachers about self-care, they talked about their struggles in the profession and times of heartache and breakdown. When I asked them about well-being, they told me about failure and unhappiness. I went into this work and I approached this work wondering about the strategies that teachers use to navigate this profession. And over again, I've heard stories of pain and uncertainty and overwhelm. A couple years into my teaching career, I taught with a woman who, instead of carrying the requisite 47 canvas totes in between home and school each day, upgraded herself to this crate on wheels. Now, this crate even had one of those extendo handles, like a carry-on suitcase. For those of you not in education, this is kind of a special talent in the teaching world, that of stuffing our 47 totes worth of work and then carrying said work between home and school and home and school and home and school and home and school every single day. It's almost as if we all had this course in college entitled How to Shove 6 Weeks of Work in Your Totes and Convince Yourself This Will Be the Night You Finally Get It Done. So this teacher, each night she wheeled this bad boy past our 4th grade wing, shouting, "Go home," to all of the younger teachers. Now, the irony of this situation didn't pass us by. Though she left at a semi-reasonable hour, she brought with her hours worth of work, so much so that she had to wheel it around like a suitcase meant for a long weekend away. I remember thinking that surely I was the smarter one. We were both working till all hours of the night, but at least I didn't have to cart my work about. Again, how wrong I was. How misguided we both were. You see, teachers bring home these piles of work often because their limited prep time is taken up by meetings and collaborative time and committee work. I recently had a conversation with a teacher who told me about the shame she felt when she left at contract time empty-handed. Not guilt, but shame. Researchers call this extra roll time, and it is one of the leading factors associated with burnout in the teaching profession. So now I want to stop and have you think about another question. In the course of my talk so far, have you thought to yourselves even once, okay, but what about the students? Any brave souls willing to admit that I have forgotten the most important part of education? You see, there's this negative connotation about talking about the teacher without also discussing potential benefits to the students. I'm not here to argue that students are unimportant. Surely they're the reason we got into this profession, and they are often the reason that we stay so long. But I will argue that a focus on students only is not good enough. A focus on teachers solely for the potential benefits to students is missing the mark. Teachers aren't just important because they support students. They are important because they're living, breathing humans. with dreams and goals of their own. We can't attend to the well-being of anyone else in our lives if we can't first attend to our own. In education, we have to rethink the way it's always been done. Each year in schools, there's a new idea, a new initiative, a reworking of research that's been around for years. And with this comes the opportunity to sell. Of course, companies jump all over this. Of course, consultants come out of the woodwork ready and excited to partner with you on this new thing. And we fall for it. Nearly every time we approach each fresh box set of curricula with the excitement of Christmas morning, because inside that shrink wrap is the promise that our kids will finally become proficient. They will finally fall in love with reading. They will finally approach social studies through the eyes of a true inquirer. But here's something I think we all know deep down to be true. It isn't the fresh pages of a book that builds relationships with a student. It isn't just that kit of math manipulatives that facilitates connections and new learning. No, it's the people. It's the real live humans inside our classrooms each and every day. Research tells us this. Teachers matter. But how much focus do we put on these people, our teachers? Developing their skills, building their relationships, equipping them with the tools they need to navigate the emotional work of education, ensuring that they take care of themselves. No, instead, we try to fix it by pushing more and more and more, and we forget that just like students, teachers are people, not robots. They have hearts and they deeply feel the emotional work that is teaching, yet we continue to push. But it doesn't have to be this way. I was at a conference recently presenting my research on teacher well-being, and the two things I heard over and over again were this: your work is so needed, and okay, so what do we do about it? The question is always there. What do we do about it? How can we easily fix this? Here's what I know. This problem took years to develop, and we won't find the solution overnight. Our profession is a messy one. It's complicated because it functions by and for people with unique stories and struggles. It's incredibly important work, yet incredibly difficult. So what could we do? We could start in our teacher prep programs by being real with our teachers. Teaching is beautiful, life-changing work, yes. But if this is the only story we tell our future teachers, we're doing them a disservice. We must tell them about the demands of this profession, not simply passing warnings to take care of themselves, but giving them the tools and the strategies they need to be proactive about building healthy boundaries. Even more, we need to take a look at the culture of education as a whole. Do we casually mention taking care of our well-being in the monthly newsletter or at the end of professional learning because it seems as though self-care might just be the new buzzword? Or do we stand by our beliefs with our words and actions when one of our teachers needs to take a mental health day? Do we question the integrity and effectiveness of a teacher that walks in at 8 and walks out at 4? Or do we applaud her for setting healthy boundaries and prioritizing her time outside of school? When we say that teachers are important, do we see them as important only because of every ounce of humanity we can wring out of them to serve our children in the system that we have so carefully crafted? Let's be clear about what we say and what we mean. Teachers don't need another reminder to take care of themselves. No, they need a system that believes in them, a system that works for them and stands beside them. You see, teachers often get into this profession because they want kids to feel loved and seen. But they often leave because nobody sees them. Let's begin the hard work of seeing our teachers. Thank you.